What is the creepiest or most unexplained thing that's happened to you that you still think about to this day? Serious replies only. To this day, there was a kid in my class that no one else remembers. I distinctly remember playing with this kid in kindergarten, and we were pretty much inseparable. About a month past Christmas break he disappeared. No one remembered him. Not the teachers, or the others in my class. No one. I even asked the school counselor if he was okay, and she humored me by going through records to see if he'd transferred. She couldn't find a thing. I think about it at least once a month. I have something similar. When I was a freshman, I think, in high school we had a pair of new students start who were twins. I remember both of them because while they were twins, they had slight differences so I could tell them apart. Anyways, a few years after high school I get a friend request from one of them. I was looking at her Facebook randomly one day looking at her pictures and didn't see any of her sister, which I thought was odd. I mentioned it to my friend and she looked at me strangely and said she doesn't have a twin. I asked another couple people we went to high school with and they all said the same thing. I have no idea what happened and it still baffles me because I distinctly remember two of them, but apparently there was only one. A few years ago, I was at my lowest point in life. Several people close to me had passed away unexpectedly, I was being bullied every day at my job, my life was falling apart. I was past being depressed, I just couldn't imagine waking up another day. So I'd planned my suicide, bought a one-way plane ticket, got sleeping pills, and wrote a series of suicide notes. On the day I was to fly out to fulfill my plan, there was a terrible accident on the freeway to the airport. It was shut down both ways. So I drove into a nearby pub to have a beer and wait out the traffic. The second I sat on the patio with my drink, a gentleman asked if he could sit with me. Whatever, I thought, sure, who cares? He told me that whatever I was doing next was a terrible idea and I would regret it. I thought, who is this random fucker? But I listened. He said that he sensed I was in pain, but that I had an incredible life ahead of me, and that this was not the way my story was supposed to end. Again, I'd never met this guy in my life, and hadn't mentioned a word to him about my plan. He asked me to hand him my keys and my wallet, and he'd give them back to me after I talked and he listened. I poured my heart out to this random guy. Told him all my traumas and pains in life and why I was heading to the airport on a one-way ticket to kill myself in a cemetery across the country where my family was buried. He just listened. And then he pulled out a lighter, asked me to pull out my suicide letters and helped me burn them. He told me I was worth so much to the world and that after I finished my drink, I needed to head home and get some sleep. He told me I was going to be okay tomorrow, and I believed him. He then gave me my keys and wallet back. I left that afternoon and went home, hugged my family. Got some sleep, and the next day, I started working on myself, finding a therapist, a new job. Years later, I'm in a fantastic place in life, so far from where I was that day. To this day, no one in my life knows how close I came to killing myself. But this random stranger just somehow understood me. And saved my life. I never saw him again, I don't even know his name. It's the most unexplained thing that has ever happened to me. And I think about that guy every day, so, thank you, kind stranger, for saving my life that random September day on a pub patio. When I was 13 I moved into my brother's bedroom, as it is an extension to the original house with an en-suite and is far larger than my old room. Originally it was a tiny box room with the entrance to the attic but was extended outwards. The attic entrance is always open, with a permanent set of metal ladders angled up into it. There's a picture of it here, the grey arch is where the original room ended. Within a few weeks of moving in I'd wake up in the middle of the night to see a figure staring down me, with a white head like a skull and formless black body. It would slowly move down to the foot of my bed and stare me until I moved, at which point it would sink into the floor. Just sleep paralysis, right? And I'd begged to move into the room and had just got it set up so I wasn't going to leave. I didn't really talk about it to anyone, it gradually became less frequent over time. 8 years after this, my brother mentioned at a get-together that he used to have a sleep paralysis demon when he lived in that room, a half-joking, half-freaked-out way to other people when the topic of them came up. He described the exact same fucking thing. Neither of us mentioned it to anybody else at the time it was happening, so we have no explanation for us both experiencing the same thing. I am currently back from uni myself due to corona with that dark void in the ceiling in the corner of my room. I used to work in a nursing home where I cared for dementia patients. Every patient on the hall I worked on would steal spoons from dinner to give to the kids because they like shiny things. It got to the point where once a week I'd have to go through everyone's room to take back the spoons. I asked the patients about the kids many times but never got a good answer. I'd hear things like they just live here, or they stand outside in the snow and look in the windows, or they're my friends who visit. Wouldn't be so weird if they all didn't do it, but it was everyone, the ones who were still capable of speaking anyways. One time at 3 a.m. one of my patients started screaming, so I ran in her room and found her laying in bed, seemingly fine. I asked what was wrong and she said that boy is here again and won't get out of my closet. I'm scared. Like me too, Dolores. What the heck? Was camping alone in a small one-person tent. All snug and secure in the tent, I went to sleep. Was woken by a clap of thunder at 3 a.m, to discover both the inner and outer tent door was wide open. That was freaky. I was deployed to Iraq and we stayed in a former prison in Baghdad. During the night we would see and hear strange things. The base at this time only had soldiers, but we would hear children playing from inside the prison. One day we decided to dig deeper to see where the kids were. When we finally found where the noise was coming from, we found a room with the ceiling caved in. We didn't find any kids but found kids' books, toys, and kids' clothes. Everything looked like it wasn't moved in weeks. We continued to hear the kids in the year we spent there. When I was in high school, I would always be the first to arrive home out of my family, having the entire house to myself. I've never been superstitious or someone who scared easily, and the hour I had alone was my favorite time of the entire day. My bedroom is upstairs, and one day when I got home from school I placed my bag away and started up the stairs. About halfway I stopped because I thought I heard something coming from upstairs, so I stayed and listened. I heard a very slow rendition of the melody from Ring Around the Rosie, crystal clear, coming from my bedroom. I was 100% sure I was the only one home, and I had absolutely no device that could be playing music unprompted, especially Ring Around the Rosie. I froze in fear and listened for about 15 seconds to make sure I was really hearing it, which I was. I just turned back down the steps and waited around in the living room for my family to get home before I went back upstairs. I went in my room a few hours later and there was nothing out of the ordinary. I know it's not a very climatic story, but it's something I think about every now and then. I never told anyone about it because, why would I, but that was the first time something truly strange happened to me. Just a normal Saturday night, I was watching TV home alone with my 2 dogs, when I heard a banging sound coming from the basement. Legit sounded like somebody was just banging something on the appliances we had down there. Now there is no access into the basement from down there, only through the upstairs rooms that I was in, and knew nobody could have come in and got past me. So with this knowledge I was not as scared as you may think, more curious as to what the heck the noise was. One of the 2 dogs, who is a meathead and wants to fight everybody, also heard the noise and was now bolting down into the basement to investigate. I get down and see that it is my other dog, banging his head into our dryer and chest freezer, which are next to each other. My meathead dog is just stood there watching, confused. So I approach my other dog and calm him down and we all go back upstairs. Now this freaked the heck out of me and upset me, as it seems such very strange behavior for my dog to do. Fast forward only 30 minutes or so, the banging starts again. I instantly look over to my dog, but he is lay down, but now also aware of the noise downstairs. We run down into the basement and it is Meathead now banging his head in between the appliances. Again, I now calm Meathead down and we all go back upstairs. Nothing has ever happened again since that night, 3 years now, so that ruled out brain tumors, which is what I read online about why maybe dogs bang their heads, but 2 dogs, suddenly on the same night and it only affecting one of them at any given time. 3 years and the 3 of us never talk about that night, lol. I've shared this before, but it still confuses the hell out of my family. My husband recently took an overnight's job to help us out during COVID. He's only been there about 2 weeks and works evenings/overnights, 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. Last night was no different, he left home around 8:15 p.m. Our daughter, age 11, and I decided to make it a movie night. Around 11 p.m., I heard keys in my back door and the usual sounds my husband makes when he comes home. I creep out to the kitchen to make sure it was him, and it was. He told me he needed to grab his knee compression sleeve, walks down the hall, says hi to our daughter as he passes the living room, and goes upstairs. He came back down, gave me a kiss and left again. We finished our movie and went to bed. In the morning when he got home I made a joking comment about him forgetting his knee sleeve. He was genuinely confused as I recalled the previous night. Our daughter confirmed everything I said and he still was acting confused. I pulled up our security motion camera on my phone to show him when he popped in quick. But there was no footage from the night before, or any other night, of him coming home after he's left for work. My daughter and I both heard him, saw him, and I touched him. But he was never home during that time. Nothing else out of the ordinary happened that night. We seriously have no idea what happened. I fell asleep on the couch and got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. Once I got there I realized I didn't have to go. I headed towards the bedroom but decided to turn around and go back downstairs to the couch. When I got there I saw my body still asleep curled up on the sofa. I don't remember what happened after, and I know it had to have just been a dream. But, it still freaks me out to this day to think about it. I was living in Boston. I woke up at 3 a.m. or so by my cat jumping up on my bed and curling in between my calf muscles and going to sleep. My cat would do this every night since I was 5 years old. That was his spot. It was something I was very familiar with. Thing is, my cat was living with my parents on the West Coast. So I couldn't understand what the hell I just felt. But I knew it was my cat. I just figured I was dreaming. Got a call from my parents the following morning that my cat died around midnight the previous night. 3 hours behind since I was on the East Coast. Guess that was my cat traveling to Boston to come see me one last time. There was a kid in another class at my school in 6th grade that was genius. I don't mean like, oh he's really smart cause doesn't need to do the homework and still gets a 100s. Like he's was doing advanced calculus with a local college professor after school. This kid was smarter than everyone. So one day our computer system for the entire school goes down. I was in a poorer area at the time so this was normal. This was occurred many times so normally it would affect us cause we barely used laptops and such. The only class that was affected was the computer class. This kid was in the computer class. 3 or so hours later when I'm class with him during social studies. 3 guys with FBI jackets on and our local chief escorted him out of the building. We were told nothing, the parents were told nothing. It never hit the news. To this day we have no clue what he did. Except every single teacher I've asked about this says they were also told nothing. I haven't seen the kid since and I can't find a trace of him going to any other school or ending up in trouble. He just fell off the face of the earth with his parents. Yet I forgot to mention that parents also disappeared and no one really looked for them after a month or so. I still think about that kid.